afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. We've reached the end of another long week, which means it's time for the weekend preview as we look at fixtures from the Championship, League One and League Two. I am your host, Alfie Burns, and joining me are my two colleagues, Marcus and Chris. Marcus, how are you this afternoon?
Yeah, really well, thanks, Alfie. Sun shining down in Sussex, so looking forward to the weekend. Plenty of cracking matches to preview in today's show.
Absolutely. Chris, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good, thanks. And as Marcus touched on, I've got a busy weekend ahead of important fixtures in all the three divisions, so it's going to be a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Important fixtures in the Championship, League One and League Two. And I think at the end of the show, we'll throw some FA Cup predictions in there as well, with Nottingham Forest and Middlesbrough both in action in that competition. We're streaming across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter this afternoon. So if you're joining us and want to get yourselves in the comments, please do. And without further ado, we'll get kick-started with the Championship. First game we're going to look at then is a Yorkshire derby between Sheffield United and Barnsley. Very different sort of aspirations for the remaining games this season, but a big game for both this one, Marcus.
Yeah, absolutely. Sheffield United will be desperate to get back to winning ways. A couple of hiccups on the road. Of course, the 4-1 defeat at Coventry really standing out. That one definitely came out of nowhere. And then, of course, 0-0 draw at Blackpool, which is a game at this stage of the season, the Tangerines with not a lot to play for, that Heckingbottom would have been desperate to pick up 3 points. So hosting the side in 22nd place, in form, it must be said, the Tykes, I think Sheffield United should be confident of picking up 3 points. Their fixture schedule has been absolutely relentless since the turn of the year, but I think potentially knowing that they are going to be able to rest up a little bit after this one, Hecky should be able to fire them up against the Tykes, who, of course, battling for their lives. So, yeah, it's set up to be a really intriguing Yorkshire derby.
Yeah, for Sheffield United, the injuries have been relentless as well as the schedule. They're hoping to recover some bodies the other side of the international break next week. That international break's coming at a good time, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's the perfect time. I think Jack Lester was speaking to the press this morning, and I think he mentioned 4 or 5 players they expect to have back. And it is an easy excuse, but it's the valid reason. Their results have suffered because they're missing so many important players. And I think the same really applies to any side in the Championship. If you're missing the number of influential players that the Blades are, you are going to struggle. I know a few of them are out for a longer term, so that will be a worry. But just getting enough bodies back so they can rotate things. I think the players looked a bit flat last time out, so it'll just be, I think it has come at the perfect time, and I think they'll use the time off to refresh themselves, and then they'll look at it as the final run-in as a time for them to put a big push in, and I think they'll fancy their chances of making the playoffs.
As for Barnsley then, they're fighting for their lives at the bottom of the table. They've given themselves a chance of survival. And I think given those Sheffield United injuries and the run that they've been on with the fixtures just coming at them left, right and centre, Marcus, it's probably a decent time for Barnsley to catch Sheffield United.
Yeah, you'd say so. Confidence will be at an all-time high sort of in terms of this season. They have been a lot stronger at Oakwell, it has to be said. Only one away win in this sort of mini resurgence that we've seen. But yeah, they'll be enthusiastic about the challenge. Of course, Bramall Lane, one of the better away days in the Championship. For me, I'm still not buying it, to be honest. I think Barnsley could probably go on to stay up, but as quite a poor side, points deductions are really helping them out, just as they did when they stayed up by the skin of their teeth in 2019-20. Their points total at this stage of the season is still horrendous, despite the recent upturn in form. So I'm trying not to sort of cloud my judgment with a bit of recency bias. I think that there are still immense frailties that the Blades will be able to make the most of. But yeah, they'll be feeling much more positive about this away day than say they were a month ago. And of course, Sheffield United with winless in their last 2 games should give a little bit of inspiration to Asbaghi's men.
Let's get some predictions in then, Marcus.
I'm going 3-1 Sheffield United. I think the fact that they know the international break is round the corner will spur them on for one last sort of painful, grind it out, big push in front of the jubilant home crowd. So, yeah, I think the Blades can get this one done and make up for lost time.
And how about you, Chris?
Yeah, despite the injuries, it's hard to look past the home win here. So I think Barnsley's, they did get a win at Hull, but apart from that, the away form hasn't really picked up. It's been at Oakwell where they've been getting the points. So, yeah, it's hard to I think Sheffield United will win quite comfortably. I'll go 2-0.
Next up then, we're going to look at Huddersfield versus Bournemouth tomorrow. This is third hosting second in the Championship, so quite a big game. We'll start with Huddersfield, the home side. It's been a tough week for them. Dropped points against West Brom and then a defeat, first league defeat since November against Millwall in the week. This could have been a game that we were talking about as two automatic promotion contenders had Huddersfield kept their run going in the last two fixtures. But as it is, Marcus, do you think that they have a little bit of a target on the back?
Definitely, yeah. They are leading the way for those sort of chasing or trying to cement their spot in the Championship. The Terriers have only lost 3 games in the league at the John Smith Stadium all season, so I think that will give them plenty of confidence. And of course, for me, Bournemouth have been way below the levels that they should be showing since the turn of the year. So Huddersfield, despite a couple of disappointing results, I think Millwall are on fire, so you can kind of write off that midweek defeat. And of course, it was a late comeback, sort of helped along by an unfortunate refereeing decision going against Huddersfield at West Brom. So I think the Terriers can, even though it's disappointing to take 1 point from 6 at this stage of the season, should still be pretty confident in the performances that they've shown, of course, building that huge unbeaten run. And yeah, particularly at home, they have been very reliable. So I don't think Bournemouth are anywhere near as intimidating as they were earlier on in the season. So I think Huddersfield should probably be narrow favourites. And yeah, Corberan will be surely focusing on getting back to winning ways and at least putting that disappointing Millwall performance behind them.
Bournemouth then sitting second, and they're only 3 points clear of Huddersfield at the moment, but it's got to be said that they've got a lot of games in hand on the Terriers at the moment. Chris, if they go to the John Smith Stadium this weekend and win, would it make second theirs to lose if it's not that case already?
Yeah, but I think that is the case already. I think it is theirs to lose, I think, with the games in hand. But I think I mentioned it on the last show. I think Bournemouth's running is pretty very well. It's very tough. They've got a lot of teams around them, so they've got Forest to play definitely, and there's going to be games that come up that will be like this Huddersfield one. So the last 4 games have been against bottom half sides, and they've only picked up 5 points, I think. So I'd just be starting to get a bit worried if I was a Bournemouth fan, because they're not playing well. That is the bigger worry. So it is theirs to lose, but the way they're going, it wouldn't be a surprise if they did lose it.
Let's get some predictions for this game then. Huddersfield versus Bournemouth, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it'll be 1-1.
And what about you, Marcus?
I'm going 2-1 Huddersfield. I don't think the January signings that we all thought were amazing and the Cherries could maybe go and push Fulham for the league title have not worked. So I'm definitely more confident in suggesting Huddersfield will win this than a strong away performance. So 2-1.
Down into League One then, and right towards the bottom of the table, Fleetwood versus Doncaster. Fleetwood have lost 5 on the bounce against good sides, it's got to be said. This is a good opportunity to get back on it, isn't it, Marcus, against the Doncaster side that are sitting 23rd in the table?
Yeah, an absolutely huge game for the Cod Army. Winless in 12, as well as that 5-match losing streak. The Stephen Craney's new manager bounce has completely sort of fallen off a cliff. I think a lot was made about Fleetwood's January signings, the likes of Ellis Harrison and Toto Enciala coming in, Zach Jules, but really losing the likes of James Hill, Jay Matete to Sunderland, and Callum Morton, who of course was recalled by West Brom and sent back out to Peterborough. They've ended up coming out of the window worse off than they were going into it. And I think the pressure is all on Fleetwood in this match. Obviously, Doncaster in a worse position than them, but they have been all season. I feel like they've kind of made peace with the idea that they're probably going to get relegated this season. So this one comes as more of not a free hit, but a chance to really upset the home crowd, given Fleetwood's terrible run. Donny have won at MK and Sunderland this year as well. So that they have been showing that they can put in these performances on the road. So it's going to be a really nervous atmosphere, I think, at Highbury Stadium. They really haven't been playing well. I know it's against good sides, but the scorelines haven't been particularly handsome. They conceded late on against Wycombe in midweek, so that's going to hurt them emotionally. They were 2-0 up and then lost 3-2 at Burton, I think, last weekend as well. So, yeah, there's not a lot of positives to take at Fleetwood at the moment. They do have some good players for the level, but it's all just not clicking at the moment. If I was in charge, I'd possibly be considering a managerial change to try and fire them up, because the likes of Morecambe and AFC Wimbledon are going to win some games at some point, and it's whether Fleetwood are able to put themselves in a position to deal with that when it does happen, because at the moment they're only heading one way.
As for Doncaster then, it's been a really tough season for the Yorkshire side, and they're obviously facing the prospect of dropping down into League Two. They're not down and out just yet though, Chris, but if they are going to have a chance of pulling off something of a great escape, they're going to have to pick up a win this weekend potentially.
Yeah, I think it is a must-win. You don't like saying that when there is so many games left, but it does feel like that. I think the way they lost, they got hammered at Cheltenham and then they lost at home to Gillingham. I think there were games that have, especially the Gillingham one, where they've identified a real good chance to pick up points, and then to lose in the way they did will have been a real blow. So I think it's as much about the momentum and lifting the spirits really for Donny. So yeah, this is a massive game for them. It is another game where they've got where they will see it as a chance of getting the points. So, but they need to improve, don't they? The 4-point gap is like you won't be giving up when it is just 4 points, but you've got to be realistic about where you're going to get the points, and this is one of those games. So, yeah, I'd say there's a lot riding on this for them, and if they lose, it's hard to see how they'll be able to bounce back, both in terms of making up the deficit and just in terms of the morale around the group, because it's a really big game.
Yeah, I think the League One relegation battle could have a very interesting look to it after this fixture at the weekend. Let's get some predictions then, Marcus.
I'm going for a result that probably neither side would be happy with, and that's a 1-1 draw. At least Fleetwood will stop the rot with that.
And what about you, Chris?
Yeah, it's a tough one to call, really. I wouldn't be too surprised with any results. I'll go with the home advantage. I'll go Fleetwood to nick it 2-1.
Right then, from the relegation battle to the race for the playoffs, Oxford versus Ipswich. Oxford sitting 4th in the table. Their last 6 games have seen them win 5 and only suffer 1 defeat. And that makes this a really, really tough game for Ipswich, doesn't it, Marcus?
Yeah, absolutely. They've obviously put a great run together under Kieran McKenna, but they will be worried about heading to the highest scorers in the league. Conceded just 1 goal in their last 9 games for Ipswich, so that will build a little bit of confidence. Just an incredible record to keep 8 clean sheets in 9, and of course has thrust them into that playoff race, although they really can't afford to lose this one. I know Oxford aren't that team in 6th, they are a little bit higher up, but the way that it could transpire in a few weeks, they do need to keep this positive momentum going, particularly after dropping points at home to Portsmouth last weekend. So it's going to be an interesting one for Ipswich, because they haven't been that inspiring going forward, but have been probably definitely the best defensive side in the league since the turn of the year, where Oxford have been the best going forward. So it'll be intriguing to see how those two sort of contrasting styles play off against each other. I think Christian Walton is, as a player with far more ability than to be playing at League One level. If it wasn't for the emergence of Robert Sanchez at Brighton Hove Albion, I'd say there's probably a good chance that he'd be their number 1 at the moment. He's proved himself in the 2nd tier, and now he's showing his class at League One level. So I think Ipswich have nothing to fear because of how well they've been playing, but of course there is that sort of the league table puts more pressure on them, and that will be nagging away in the back of their mind that they really do need to avoid defeat here.
Yeah, Max has sort of touched on it there. Looking at Ipswich then, currently in 9th, they've got a chance of the playoffs this season, but there's still a lot of work to do for them to just keep chipping away at those playoff positions. Chris, do you agree that they need something from this game if they are to eventually get into the top 6?
Yeah, I would say they do. Yeah, I think they've been playing well for quite a while, since the new manager came in. But yeah, there's been too many draws recently that have just stopped them making that final push when you think they're going to really close the gap. They've tended to draw, which hasn't been what they needed. So yeah, I think the games are running out. So I think this is one that they'll have to win, really, and it will bring Oxford a bit closer to them as well. So there's another team that they can potentially catch during the run-in, because that could be an issue as well. So yeah, I think as Marcus alluded to there will be confident. They know they're a very good team. The squad, at the start of the season, I think everyone thought they'd go up as champions, or certainly be up there with the recruitment that they made. So this is a group that's good enough, and McKenna has started to get them playing well. As we've mentioned, they're quite hard to score against. They've still got enough quality in the final third. So yeah, I think this will be a great game, to be honest, and it's a big one at the top. So should be one worth watching.
Let's get some predictions in then, Chris.
Yeah, I just got a feeling for Ipswich here. I think they have got one of the best sides in the league on the day, and I think there is a lot riding on this for them. I think it'll be 2-1 to Ipswich.
And what about you, Marcus?
Yeah, same. I've got 2-1 to Ipswich. I think they will concede finally, as everyone seems to do against Oxford. But I think they've got the mettle to be able to manage the game well and, yeah, just edge it 2-1.
Into League Two then, again tonight between Newport and Hartlepool. We'll start with Newport, currently sitting third in the table. It's 4 wins in 5 for them, and an opportunity tonight to sort of put the ball in the court of the other sides chasing promotion, Marcus.
Yeah, definitely. There's always pressure on those sides in and around it in League Two. The incredible how tight it is between 2nd and 10th place. You can almost see any combination of ordering the sides of where they'll finish. But that, of course, means that you've got to win a game, or you've got a chance of even falling from Newport in third. They could end up falling out of the playoffs by the end of the weekend if they're not able to take maximum points this evening. So, yeah, it's a huge game. As you said, psychologically, it would be a huge boost to just get that 3 position on the teams around them going into the weekend, so they can just see how the results do come in. Dom Telford, of course, is the star man. 25 goals this season. Absolutely flying. Really announced himself as an EFL goal scorer. He hasn't scored in his last 4 though, so maybe this is an opportunity for him to get that sort of monkey off his back going into the running. But no, I think Newport don't really have too much to be afraid of here. Hartlepool have had an excellent season adjusting to League Two level, but they are one of those teams that are quite nice to play at this start of the season where they don't have a lot to play for. Although, in a sense, that does create a little bit of unpredictability of what kind of performance level we're going to see from them. But no, Newport unbeaten in 7 and, of course, winning 4 from their last 5, as you mentioned. They should be with full of confidence. Rob Street getting off the mark last weekend as well. So I think there's no reason for Newport not to be fancying themselves to pick up an important 3 points tonight.
Yeah, let's just brush over Hartlepool then. They're probably one of those clubs in League Two, and there's only a very small number of them that have probably got little to play for between now and the end of the season. Chris, does that make them a threat to Newport tonight?
Yeah, I suppose it's whichever way you want to look at it, isn't it, really? In one sense, there isn't any pressure, so they can go and play knowing that they've not got to get these points. But on the other hand, do you have that edge if you don't need the points for a reason? So it is, I suppose, it's whichever way you look at it, really. But I think their away form is a big concern going into this one. I think they've lost more than anyone in the league away from home, which is quite remarkable when you look at some of the sides down the bottom. But admittedly, they have picked up results in recently, so it's not an immediate problem. But it does show they struggle on the road. And I think Newport will see this as a great chance, as you mentioned. When you are playing a side who doesn't have anything to play for, you try and use that as motivation, like whether it is right or not. That's what I'm sure Newport will be telling themselves, that these have got nothing to play for, really. We've got to go out at them from the off and make it difficult. So it is hard to look past a home win for this one.
Let's get some predictions in then. Marcus up first.
I'll go 1-0 Newport. Professional job. I think maybe Telford to nick it 1-0.
And what about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'll go 2-0. Pretty straightforward home win.
On to tomorrow's action in League Two then. Northampton currently sitting 2nd in the table, hosting Bristol Rovers up into 7th recently. There's a touch of inconsistency when it comes to Northampton right now. So, given Bristol Rovers' fine form, Marcus, would we have them down as favourites for this game?
I definitely do, yeah. I think Bristol Rovers have got a great chance. They've won 10, drawn 4, lost 2 of their last 16, which has to be at least automatic promotion form. And I think now that they've made up the ground, we have to consider them as automatic promotion contenders. It's been an incredible sort of resurgence under Jerry Barton after languishing in the bottom half for most of the first half of the season. They've got nothing to be afraid of here. I think Northampton, it's so mainly a set-piece threat. I don't think anyone else in that sort of top 10 is so reliant on dead ball situations. Of course, they have been the most effective team from set pieces this season in terms of goals scored with Horsfall and Guthrie. Incredibly dangerous. But if you can deal with that threat, I think you do sort of tame a lot of how dangerous Northampton are. So if Bristol Rovers can can achieve that, it's easier said than done. I think they've definitely got the upper hand here. Elliot Anderson's been an inspired loan signing in January. Has completely changed the way that they've been playing. So yeah, I do think Bristol Rovers should be narrow favourites here. Northampton, 9 of their last 10 wins have come by a single goal. So it's not surprising to see that inconsistency come in when they're never really making themselves comfortable in games. Must be absolutely nail biting for the fans at all times. You're sat in second place, but you've got to grind out every single 3 points that you get. So yeah, even though Northampton have been very strong at home this season, beat Tranmere impressively at Sixfields a few weeks ago, I do think Bristol Rovers have the upper hand given their recent form and just the confidence that they're playing with at the moment.
Bristol Rovers, then Chris, it finally feels like we're seeing the best of Joey Barton's side, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I think we've kind of been waiting for it, haven't we, for quite a while. This was his first full season. Obviously, I think there was a lot of expectancy around them, and they did struggle to start with. But yeah, now they're flowing. I think the best thing about them is they're scoring goals, where they're grinding out wins, and they're winning in different ways, which is always obviously a really good sign, because you're never going to have it all your own way in League Two. So you do need to be able to mix it up, and I think they've shown that they can do that. I think they've hit form at just the right time, and as Marcus said there, they'll be looking up now, and I think they'll be really looking forward to this game and for the remaining 9. I think they'll fancy their chances of getting one of those automatic promotion spots.
Let's get some predictions in then. Chris, up first.
Yeah, I still think Northampton are a tough side, so I think this will be 1-1. It'll be a really tough game for both, really. I think there won't be much between them.
And what about you, Marcus?
I think Bristol Rovers will be able to hunt them down. I'm going 2-0. I think Cobbler's very hit and miss at the moment. So yeah, feeling really good about Bristol Rovers. So 2-0.
While we're here then, we've got a couple of EFL sides in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, so we might as well talk about them. Middlesbrough versus Chelsea, first tie. Marcus, Middlesbrough, they've taken Manchester United and Tottenham out of the FA Cup. Do you give them much chance of taking Chelsea out as well?
Definitely. I think they've got every chance. It's a nice time to play Chelsea. I think they're, of course, away in Lille in midweek as well. And then all of the publicised sort of travel issues that might have been around the game, they might not be coming in the best shape. And, of course, the belief that Borough should be playing with. They did ride their luck a little bit at Manchester United, but were definitely the better side against Tottenham, and it was a well-earned result. Some of their performances, you could argue, have been of Premier League standards since Chris Wilder came in, so I think they've got nothing to fear. Plenty of experience in the side to sort of keep all of the squad in check. And not let the occasion get the better of them. So I think Borough have got a great chance. I'm expecting a very competitive match, maybe similar to as we saw in Chelsea's 3-2 win at Luton in the round of 16. And
what about you, Chris? How are you feeling about Middlesbrough's prospects?
Yeah, I think they'll be able to give most teams in the country a game at home, because with the way Wilder's transformed them at the Riverside has been pretty remarkable. I think the fans have bought into it. They'll have obviously a full house for their Saturday evening, so it's going to be very tough for Chelsea. And I think that Borough have got quality in different areas of the pitch that can hurt Chelsea. And again, it depends how seriously Chelsea take it, because we know these bigger teams do, even with the international break, they sometimes have one eye further down the line, and they might want to rest players after they've just been to France in the week. So if Chelsea don't go full strength, I think Middlesbrough have got a real chance. If they do, it's obviously, well, either way, it's obviously going to be very tough. But yeah, I think they'll put up a good showing regardless.
The other tie then, Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool. The Forest fans are very, very excited about this one. They've turned over Arsenal and Leicester at the City Ground already in the FA Cup. Marcus, I'm going to ask you again, can they do that to Liverpool?
Definitely. I think Liverpool coming back into the title race in the Premier League, I think it's just 1 point or 4 points, but with a game in hand on Manchester City at the moment, does sort of make the FA Cup fall down the pecking order a little bit. So for that reason, I can see Klopp rotating a little bit more. Trent Alexander-Arnold's injury is a boost for Forest as well. So I don't see why they can't be competitive. I think this definitely strikes me as the potentially more high-scoring tie than Middlesbrough against Chelsea. But no, I think that the spirit around Forest at the moment, it's going to be a big ask, but I don't think they'll be embarrassed at all. I think this will be a match that will be sort of entertaining till the end. I don't think Liverpool will be comfortable if they are able to get the win.
Me and you discussed this off air earlier, Chris. You fancy Forest to give Liverpool a game if there's a bit of rotation, don't you?
I do, yeah, and I think Klopp has already suggested that he will be making changes. He's already hinted at that. So, yeah, I think it's a similar story with Middlesbrough, really. If you've got the home crowd behind you, I think those two teams in particular out of the Championship are the two that on any given day can give these Premier League sides a real run for their money. And it's obviously going to be tough, and you're not going to sit here and say Forest will definitely go through. But in terms of making it a real contest, I think they can do that. Liverpool haven't been firing on all cylinders all the time recently, particularly away. I think they struggled at Burnley. That sticks out, and they needed 2 late goals to get through. So it's one of these that Forest will. Yeah, there's nothing to fear really, I think, for them, and it's a free hit. So just see what they can do. The international break's up next, so you can just put everything into this and then see what happens.
Right then, let's get some predictions. We'll stage these predictions slightly differently. I'll ask you both this question. Are we going to have an EFL representative at Wembley for the semi-finals? Marcus?
Oh, no, I'm going to say no. But I think we're in for some great entertainment this weekend nonetheless. Fine margins I'm expecting, but I lean towards no, sadly.
What about you, Chris? You're going to give us some hope?
After saying all that, it would be bad to say no. But yeah, I'll say at least one of them will go to extra time. I think Forest might take Liverpool all the way. I think the Klopp will have to bring on a few stars, I reckon, to sort it out in extra time. So, but I expect close games regardless.
Right, that concludes this afternoon's weekend preview. Thanks to Marcus and Chris for joining me, and anybody else that's joined us across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It's the international break next week, but that doesn't stop League One and League Two motoring on. So there's plenty to talk about on Football League World TV. So hopefully we'll see you again soon.